and gave me a $5 birthday present. So I quickly whipped out my phone and I texted the senator and said, "You have just made my son's day," wishing him a happy birthday and giving him $5. And he said, "That was your son?" And I was kind of surprised. He didn't know it was my son. But you know what that told me about the senator? It didn't matter that it was the mayor's son, because Tim truly cares about that next generation. So close your eyes right now and picture your children. Picture your grandchildren. Picture the unborn children that he's fighting for. Picture your neighbor's children, because those are the faces that the senator pictures when he's fighting for the next generation, which is so needed in today's day and age. Because if you look at the country, what's going on in the classroom, what's going on in the locker room, what's going on in the bedroom of our children in their hands with their technology, we need someone that's going to empower parents to bring the rights back to them from the classroom to the locker room. What do you say to that? In addition to that, we need someone that's looking ahead to the future, because the foundation that we hold so dear here in America is starting to get a little rocky. We need someone that's going to come back to those basics and hold true to America's values. And I can't think of anyone better to do that than Senator Tim Scott. The one thing that I absolutely love about him is he embodies a perfect balance between common sense and wisdom. And isn't that lacking in today's day and age? So when we face the issues of the future, which may or may not be the same issues that we face today that he does have the solutions for, he knows where to tap into and who to tap into to get those answers as well. I have to say, I don't just know him as my senator, I know Tim as my friend, and I am very grateful for that. And so I'll usually send him a text here and there just to check in on him and ask, how can I pray for you for this week? And I love his answer is almost always wisdom, because isn't that what we all need if we're going to be running a country? But I'll also say, how are you doing? And he's always answering some sort of, I'm great, which at some point I wound up calling him out on. How are you always great? There is no way. I saw the news headlines last week. What is going on? But his answer was amazing, and it made me realize that you can say the answer great no matter what high or low you had last week, what high or low you face next week, when your foundation is in your faith. And that's where he finds that. I can tell you that a vote for Tim Scott for president is a vote for your voice. It's a vote for your children and their voice. And it's exactly who we need in the future. So it is my honor to welcome to the stage the next president of the United States, Senator Tim Scott.
Good job.
You're so welcome. Enjoy.
Good job. Awesome. Thank you. Hello, Charleston. Thank you. Thank you so much. As a proud resident of Hanahan, I didn't know that my mayor can preach up here. Well, she's getting into it. I said, God said. I said, wow. Go, Christy, go. So good to see so many friends here today. Terry, second year, sorry, thank you for being here. God bless you. We were together in 1994 when I was running for county council, trying to figure out how to make a difference on the local level. And you and Cindy were two of the people there with Mark Hartley who made a huge difference in my life when we were trying to do something that had never been done before. And people said it could not happen. Countywide, it was impossible. And what we know is Philippians 4:13. We can do all things through Christ. So thank you for being here. So I'll just be honest with y'all. I took way too much time going around the room, to be honest with you. So, and we had to take a flight to go for 3 more stops. So as opposed to giving you my long 25-minute version of why I'm running for president, I'm going to give you the 3-minute version of why I'm running for president, so that I can talk with you all and listen to your questions and spend more time answering your questions than I do on a monologue. So I'm running for president because I know America can do for anyone what she's done for me. It's why we're focusing on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting the America we all love. And protecting America for me starts with backing the blue. We must take care of our law enforcement officers. You know, the radical left, they literally have been trying to defund the police. As President of the United States, it is time for us to refund and respect the police. Our streets around big blue cities are being ravished with crime, hopelessness, and devastation. It is time for us to restore this old-fashioned concept, law and order. Rocky? And if we're going to protect our great nation, we have to close our southern border. $70,000 Americans have lost their lives in the last year alone to fentanyl coming across our southern border. 70,000 Americans. Every single county in this country is a border county because of the devastation being brought to this nation. From the precursors for fentanyl are produced in China, brought to a Mexican lab, manufactured there, and then the Mexican cartels bring it across our southern borders. Not on my watch as President of the United States. We will close the southern border. We will use the available technology to surveil our border and stop fentanyl, answer the call, and stop human trafficking from devastating our nation in an immoral, unethical way. You know, we talk a lot about slavery, unfortunately, but the greatest time of slavery in the history of the world is right now. Sex trafficking is devastating little girls across this world. We cannot turn a blind eye to that. We are America. We are the land that sits on a hill. We are the light for the rest of the world. And it's time that we had a president who believed that too. And if we are going to protect America, we need a president who will stand toe-to-toe with President Xi in China and bring home our jobs, stop them from spying on our kids, buying our farmlands, and stealing our intellectual property to compete against us. Yeah. That's unbelievable. It is not the strength of China or President Xi. It is the weakness of President Biden that is a problem. I want to ask you to vote with your voices. Is it time for us to fire Joe Biden? Yes. I could barely hear you. Yes. I can hear you better. Is it time to fire Merrick Garland? Yes. I'm going to say Christopher Wray as well. Yes. A new president, i.e. me, will restore. I didn't want to leave y'all with any questions who I was talking about. I know y'all have some choices, but I want your choice to get down to one. It is time for us to restore confidence and integrity in the Department of Justice by firing Joe Biden and then firing Merrick Garland and firing Christopher Wray and restoring confidence and integrity by eliminating the political appointees that is poisoning the well of our Department of Justice. We cannot have Lady Justice without a blindfold. Lady Justice must wear a blindfold in America. It's not just the fact that this Department of Justice is attacking political opponents. That's bad enough. It's un-American and unacceptable. But to watch them attack parents who show up at school board meetings, this DOJ calls those folks domestic terrorists because you care enough about your kids to be actively involved in what they're being taught. That's why I'm coming out with a Parents' Bill of Rights, because parents should be in charge of their kids, not a system. And our Parents' Bill of Rights don't start at K through 12. It starts with adoption. It starts with making sure that we protect crisis pregnancy centers. And unfortunately, I did not realize when we came out with our plan late last week that this morning, the Crisis Pregnancy Center in Spartanburg, South Carolina, would have been the victim of arson. We should be praying for those who dedicate their lives to making sure that adoption and the life decision, it's easier to make because you have the information. In this area, there's a young lady named Ann Badgley who's been involved in crisis pregnancy centers forever. I worked with her 25 years ago and 25 pounds ago. And it ain't that funny, but it is time for us to restore the decency of our culture by defending those who have no voice, defending the defenseless. And finally, for the longest 3 minutes in American history, these are football minutes, by the way. If we're going to restore hope, it means every parent must have a choice in education so their child has a chance for the best future. My mom's with us today, Frances Scott, sitting over here. I'll just simply close it. My mother, who worked, you all are Charlestonians, many of you also, you know my story, so I'm not going to tell it again, but she's the lady that worked those 16-hour days as a nurse's aide, changing bedpans and rolling patients to make sure that our lights were on, that there was food on the table. This is why I say in my commercials, and the last thing I said on the debate stage, is that my mother taught me, if you're able-bodied in America, you work, period. It's where most of us got our values was from our families. My mama taught me if you take out a loan, you pay it back. Common sense, right? If you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. And if God made you a man, you play sports against men. So, with that, I am going to have not my normal Q&A. I'm going to have only the rapid-fire Q&A so we can get through as many questions as possible. I'll try to give you short answers. Now, you know the rule. If I don't like your question, I go to the next person. Just joking, just joking. All right, Frank?
Mandates. Can you talk to us about mandates?
Yeah, so I have always been against mandates. One of the major failures of the COVID response was us telling people what they must do. Us being government, not me. I've been against mandates the entire time, and you and I have had many conversations. Frank is a healthcare guru, and I am not, but I will simply say that mandates are antithetical to who we are as Americans. We cannot abide them, number one. And we ought to follow the science, but when Dr. Fauci is the guy telling us the science, we're not following science. We're following his opinion. Another problem with those in NIH and CDC, they led us down the wrong path for about 3 weeks, trying to figure it out themselves before they opened up and went to the private sector so we could get some really good answers. It was a 10-day, then it was 5 days. That's not science. So following the science is not what we saw as a nation. President of the United States, I'm going to give the states and families the power to make their decisions. We did it here in South Carolina and it worked out just fine. Yes, ma'am. Come on. Well, I learned that the more you insult people, the more time you get. I learned having no obvious good home training is another way to get more time. I also learned it was the most effective way to help Joe Biden become the next president of the United States again. Part of the chaos of the debate stage is there were lots of opportunities for me to jump into the food fight, but I don't think America benefits from a food fight. I know two groups that benefit from the food fight we saw on Wednesday night. The media loves it when Republicans are eating the lunch of other Republicans. Not in contrast. We should have a contrast. Where are we different? That's a really important question. Calling each other's names, it's just below the dignity of the office of being president. So you ought to be the kind of candidate you want to be the president. I also found and believe that the longer these debates go on, the more focused on substance they will get, and we will continue to rise to the top. Yes, sir.
How about the war in Ukraine?
Next question. Yeah. I'm going to do Ukraine before I go to Israel. I'll do both, by the way. So here's where I am on. I think the President of the United States has failed miserably to tell us what is America's national vital interest in Ukraine. We don't have a president who appears to be able to deal with the southern border and foreign policy, leaves a lot of frustrated Americans. We don't have a president who seems to have the ability to articulate why it is that we're spending the resources in Ukraine that we are. I believe that America's national vital interest in Ukraine is degrading the Russian military. Doing so keeps our troops at home in America and keeps the homeland safe. That's really important. It's really important because we have NATO territory that is contiguous with Ukraine. An attack on NATO territory is an attack on all of us. That engages our military. The way we keep our military and the homeland safe is degrading the Russian military, and our resources and the very high price of Ukrainian blood has brought that to be a reality. Israel. I don't think there's a time stamp on when we should stop being Israel's ally. There are candidates who suggest that whether it's 2027 or 2028, that Israel needs to figure it out on their own. That is a lie from the pit of Gehenna, also known as hell. We should always stand shoulder to shoulder and back to back with our allies. We can't have assets that we sell off when the usefulness of those folks are done. That's not America. That will, however, breed terrorism against us. Be very careful how we treat our allies today, because if we're wrong, if we don't do what we say we're going to do, we become a part of the problem. So Israel, according to Psalms 122:6, pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and for those who do, they will prosper. A part of America's greatness has been our goodness. Yes, sir. Social Security and Medicare. I will protect my mama's Social Security and your Social Security too. Now, two things on that answer. Number one, it's true. And number two, in order for us to do that, we have to stop the anemic growth that we have experienced as a nation economically. Our first quarter this year, we grew 1%. 1% is so anemic that you can't honor the commitment I just made. We're going to have to grow our economy closer to 5% to have the revenues generated throughout our economy in the trillions so that we have additional billions of dollars of revenue coming to our treasury. That will take my Made in America plan where we create 10 million new jobs by unleashing America's energy assets today. First day of office, XL Keystone Pipeline, let's get it done. If we unleash our energy resources, we create more than 3 million new energy jobs across this land. That is a good thing. We can create high-tech manufacturing jobs by bringing our jobs home from China and across the world and paying Americans to do the right thing for our economy, not hoping and praying that China or somebody else is going to be our buddy. It ain't going to happen. So we have to start decoupling our economy so that our economy grows near 5%, which adds billions of additional dollars. And then there's so much waste, fraud, and abuse in our system that you could find over $200 billion. Don't cut a single benefit. Just be better managers. And then don't spend what you don't have buying things you can't afford, trying to impress people who ain't impressed. Yes, sir.
As president, what would you do to get the Department of Defense to focus on warfighting and consider wokeness?
Yes, great question. Really important question. I assume you served. Thank you for serving. For all the veterans in the audience, will you please take a stand? Now, let me just simply say, the short answer is we have to change the absolute leadership from every facet of a political appointee in the Department of Defense as well. Number one. Number two, we need to get rid of all social experimentation with our military, whether it's Band-Aids, whether it's gender issues or abortion issues, whether it's ESG, DEI, or CRT. Our men and women should focus on one thing: winning the war and coming home safe. I'll simply say, as you know, I did not serve. I have two brothers who both served. I have an ugly brother and a good-looking brother. My good-looking brother spent 32 years in the Army as a command sergeant major. God bless his service. My ugly brother spent 26 years in the Air Force as a colonel. Bless his service, too. Thank God there weren't very many mirrors in his house. But let me just simply say this. That whether you're the ugly dude or the good-looking dude, the bottom line is if you serve, you should have the equipment, the training, the resources, and the mission. The mission should be based on a level of lethality, coming home safe. End of story. Single-minded focus saves American lives. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
We love you, and I know you're a man of faith.
Yes, ma'am.
But you have said we need to stop having this victim mentality, and I agree with you.
Yes.
But also, there are millions of folks in our country who are disabled, who are living on fixed income, who are elderly, who are vulnerable. And I can't help it, though, as a woman of faith, back to Matthew 25, when did I see you? When I was hungry, when I was naked, when I was in the orphanage, when I was in prison, when I didn't have home. And I know you love us all.
Yes.
Please, Senator, when you say you're going to sunset Medicare and Social Security disability, my heart goes out to the people who struggle, and my heart goes out to the people. Words matter. The word victim, I know you mean it in the right way, but the word victim, there are women that have been assaulted. There are people that are...
Let me say this. You should become a preacher if you're not. But let me say this. I'm glad that you do. But two things. I have not said we should sunset Social Security disability, number one. Social Security, so just to bifurcate the conversation around Social Security, which is a really important conversation. So we spend about, over $1 trillion on Social Security. The question I've always pondered is whether or not we should have Social Security focusing simply on our seniors and then take Social Security disability and put it in a different bucket, not sunset it, so that we can understand the benefits that are going out to whom it's going out to. I don't trust our government to do complicated things. We don't do it really well. So I have never said that we should sunset Social Security disability. I have said that we should focus and study on the disability component in Social Security so that we understand the benefits that are going out. So, number one, Matthew 25 certainly reinforces the notion that we should help those who are naked and hungry. We should help those who are thirsty. But then it goes to another cohort of folks that we should also help, those who are incarcerated, by visiting them, not necessarily letting them out. Number two, it says that we should help the widow, which I would also expand to single mothers. So there are vulnerable people that need our help. But here's the difference, though. Victimhood is not about needing help. Victimhood is about not helping yourself. We should be a nation that says if you can do it for yourself, that's your responsibility. It's not our responsibility. So being a man who believes that victimhood is bad and despair comes with victimhood is a guy I am, and I don't walk back from it. I don't even apologize for it. Being compassionate means helping you do all that you can for yourself before you dare ask anybody for any help. God bless y'all. Thank you for being here. God bless America. Thank you. And please vote Tim Scott. Appreciate it.